I guess we're live,
Exciting.
but we'll go live here in about 10 minutes. No,
Yes.
5.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Are we supposed to?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Make sure jewelry's all lined up properly.
Mm-hmm.
This will be fun.
Would be good to get it going.
Yeah. I don't see any signs that we have any viewers yet,
No.
so.
Does it take them a while once we're live to get on, or
I don't know. I got the impression when I got that email that she was
right there?
sitting there, but I keep getting the times confused between Eastern and Central, which I don't know why. It's
Mhm,
not
mhm.
actually that complicated.
Yeah.
I think I might have told them last week in India that it was 8:03, which it's not. It's
Oh,
10:03 up there.
10:03. Yeah.
So if we went live at 8:03,
Oh, anybody that's on.
that would have been
2 hours.
7:03 here, so that would have been 2
Yeah.
hours though.
While we were here, we could have done it for them.
Well, we did stream live, just not on the right channel. It's amazing how we become sensitive to all the sounds.
Mhm. One of our ideas for the first show, one of Kyle's thoughts was he wanted to do something on location
Oh, cool.
downtown. We were glad to.
On this windy day. We'll do that once we got this down pat. So we're T-minus a couple of minutes?
2 minutes.
I think that would be fun to do. Live stream.
Mhm.
After we record.
Mhm. It would be an event.
And if it was at the end of the day, you could serve wine or coffee.
Maybe I should do one of our celebration.
Well, if we did wine once a month, maybe we could get again once a month.
Because if we had everybody here, that could be part of the party.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool.
So he had us set it up for 6 now. 6 people, yeah. Okay, we got 1 minute and we're going live. I guess he's gotta count us down.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, pin action, because we got
Yes,
this
we
picture
got
of
this
ourselves with this.
picture right there.
We'll have to, we should take a photograph of that, and send
Yeah.
it to him.
Good morning. I'm Rowena Crosby.
And I'm Deborah Renner, and we're your co-hosts for this show. For the next 17 minutes, thank you for joining us at this IT show. But not IT like in information technology, IT in like Invisible Toolbox. We're going to be discussing the tools that are essential for all of us to have successful interactions.
So we welcome you to our first live broadcast. Today we'll tell you what you can expect from this program, and we will explore one of the tools in your Invisible Toolbox. We're also going to play a game that we call Two Truths and a Lie that will test your knowledge. And if your image is on any online sites, websites, social media, you want to stick with us for the social media posts because we're going to present a tool to you to help you improve your image online. And we get to interview an expert a little bit later in the show. So let's get started.
Now, Ro, you're originally from Canada. Do you miss Canada?
Deb, the answer is the same today as it was 25 years ago when I immigrated to the U.S. I miss the people. And I'll bet that's the same answer most of you provide when you're asked, do you miss your hometown? Do you miss your college days? Or do you miss a previous job? Our relationships matter. And we know that's true at work and in our home relationships, and our personal experience really testifies to the importance of relationships. And research actually backs it up. Harvard University, the Carnegie Foundation, and the Stanford Research Institute have all shown 85% of our professional success is related to our people skills.
Each of us has been in, and I imagine you've been in as well, a situation where we desperately wanted the interaction to go well. We wanted to know how to say or do the right thing, whether we're talking to a colleague, talking to a manager, talking to a team. Highly developed interpersonal skills have never been more critical, and especially in the environment we're in right now. Such a high-tech environment. Our devices are getting smaller and smaller, and our opportunities for face-to-face interactions are fewer and fewer, and we don't have those opportunities to really develop those complex human relation skills.
Indeed. And each of us carries around two toolboxes. One of the toolboxes has our technical skills, our expertise, the equipment, the devices we use to carry out our tasks. And the other toolbox is the invisible one. And that's the one that contains the skills of human relations, and that's what this program is all about.
Yes, the program name is Your Invisible Toolbox, and the name is based on a book that Ro and I co-authored, and it's coming out in April. And we wrote the book to address people like you who are interested in making your interactions more successful and have an interest in that. We targeted the millennial generation, and that's because that's the largest cohort in the workplace right now, but the book has insights for all of us, and we'll be sharing some insights with you in the next few weeks, as well as how you can get a copy of the book as well.
So let's get started with our topic today. Would you be interested in a tool that when you use it effectively and frequently can really differentiate you from others? It's a tool that's available to you and doesn't take much effort to use once you get used to pulling it out of the Invisible Toolbox. What is this magical tool? It's your facial expressions.
Exactly.
So let's take a look today at what the research tells us about facial expression and how we are perceived.
So this is the segment of the program called Two Truths and a Lie. Ro is going to make 3 statements, and you're going to determine which one of those is a lie.
So here we go. Fact number 1. Smiling lowers your blood pressure and releases serotonin and endorphins. Fact number 2. 30% of us smile about 20 times per day. And fact number 3, children smile 200 times per day, about 10 times the rate of adults. So did you take a guess at which one of those is the lie? If you guessed number 1, thanks for playing, you're wrong. Actually, smiling does lower blood pressure and increases serotonin and endorphins. It boosts our immune system, and especially when we're in tough situations, it helps us to relax. If you guess that 30% of us smile 20 times per day is the lie, you're also wrong. That statement is true. Our lie was fact number 3. Children do not smile 200 times a day, 10 times the rate of adults. They smile 400 times per day, 20 times the rate of adults.
So what happens to us from the time that we're little ones to full-grown adults? With all the health and relational benefits of smiling, maybe we need to take a cue from our toddlers in our lives in terms of role models for smiling.
Yes. So let's take a deeper dive into our invisible tool of the week.
It is said the most important thing you will wear is the expression on your face. What's the expression on your face right now? A smile humanizes our messages to others. And when researchers show faces to people, they remember the ones that had a happy expression. So smiling actually makes us more memorable. That's a great quality to be able to have, to make a memorable impression.
We all care about that.
Most of us, however, are unaware of the facial expression, especially in times that are stressful, when we're giving a presentation, or when we might be having a team meeting. We might not even be aware of what our face is saying. And yet, we do know that the message that we're delivering, if it's serious, can be enhanced by a smile. So even in a serious message, we have to have some variance in our facial expression in order to be able to really intensify the serious points. Plan sometime during that message when you can appropriately smile.
Deb, have you ever noticed that you respond with a smile when someone smiles at you? So we invite you to try this experiment. Sometimes during this next week when you're a customer, try smiling at your service provider. And it doesn't matter who it is. It could be a waiter, it could be a TSA agent, it could be a clerk, maybe your accountant who's helping with your taxes. Whoever it is, try smiling at them and see what reaction you get. We can actually impact the results we get by our own actions.
You know, I tried it this weekend.
You did?
Getting ready for the show, I was out doing errands and I thought, I'm gonna purposefully smile at people and make eye contact. It's amazing the response that you get. And so our tool for the week for you is initiate a smile. Go out, initiate a smile, and evaluate the results that you have in terms of that interaction.
Well, those of you who follow Tero on social media already know that we make several posts every day of useful resources, and we're going to choose 2 of those posts every week to feature on this show. And the first one we're going to feature is going to provide us some insight in how we represent ourselves online. So is there an image of you up on a website or on a social media, and what is it communicating about you? So many of us have our photos up there. So today, check out Tero's social media and you'll find a link to Photo Feeler. You can also go out to photofeeler.com, that's PHOTOFEELER.com. And there you'll find a site at Photo Feeler where you can upload a photograph of yourself and get impression feedback from strangers. So it takes a little courage to do this. It gives you feedback on 3 different dimensions, business dimensions, on competence, on likability, and on influence. You can also get feedback on what your image looks like on social and dating sites. Deb, you've tried Photo Feeler. What was your experience with it?
Oh, I did. I tried it for my professional headshot that's on the Tero website, and I put the headshot out there. They have you describe your role so you can actually get some congruency between your role and how you are perceived with regards to that headshot. It was fascinating.
It is fascinating. I've done the same thing, and you can load up 2 photos on this site and get feedback and decide which one represents you most effectively. So the way it works, you load up your photo and then you vote on photos of 10 other people, and that gives you enough credits in the system that then these strangers will vote on your photo and tell you how you're perceived visually. You'll also find some great articles out on the Photo Feeler website. There's some wonderful research that's congruent with the research we do at Tero on perceptions, and some tips on how to improve the photos that you use to have you featured.
We have a second post that we'd like you to check out on Thursday, and this is a TED Talk. And it is a TED Talk on the hidden power of smiling. It's amazing. It's had over 4 million views. It was put out by Ron Gutman, and the research that he conveys is really interesting. In fact, he says that smiles will activate the social reward area of our brain. And so just a smile will be the same to us in that reward area of our brain has 2,000 bars of chocolate
That's a lot of chocolate.
and no calories. He also says that it's the same as if you were to take an old coat jacket in the pocket and you would find $25,000, same amount of intensity in your brain. Isn't it amazing? Just the hidden power of a smile. Check it out on Thursday.
I'm trying to imagine which jacket pocket I am gonna find $25,000 on, and I'm triggered the same thing with a smile. Well, we're gonna now shift into the portion of the program we call Ask the Expert, and we are so fortunate today to have a Tero expert who's gonna join us with some helpful tips.
Oh, we are so thrilled to have Michelle Whitty. Michelle, please join us. Normally, we would stand to shake hands, but we're not gonna do that due to the camera today, but we are gonna.
Cut off our heads.
We are gonna welcome
Good morning,
Michelle.
Michelle.
So great to
Very
have
nice
you
to be here.
For those of you that don't know Michelle, Michelle is a lead trainer at Tero, and she's certified by the Protocol School of Washington, D.C., and she is out every week facilitating to groups on the power of networking and business etiquette. We can't think of anyone better to have to talk through facial expressions. So can I ask you a couple questions?
I welcome it, thank you.
Thank you. In your work, how do you coach people around facial expression, and how does that impact their success?
In our coaching, I love to take the client interactions and add to the research that you have just shared. Typically in coaching, we oftentimes begin with research, just some of that research that Ro and Deb have shared. And I'd like to add research related to a classic communication that happened over 50 years ago. And a young researcher at UCLA wanted to know the results when two people show up in the world and they are interacting face to face. What is the result of that communication? He studied factors and considerations around that, and what he found was this. There are high impact areas. One of them around visual communication that people respond to is facial expressions. And so it ties in beautifully with the research that you two have just shared with viewers. But what's important to realize is in that visual result, and it was 55% of that entire communication when two people show up in the world, what people are really looking for is the eye contact, facial expression, gestures, and body posturing. So facial expression in that context becomes a wonderful visual tool, and interestingly enough, it is among the first high impact first impressions. So that's why it brings value, and in the basis of when we work with our clients, it's really sharing that information and research with them and taking it from research to application, what that means for their own behavior and how they are modifying that behavior every time they show up and interact with other people.
It's almost like I've heard you describe it as a speechless communication, and I love that term. Can you talk more about that?
I think facial expression is a speechless communication for the reason that it is a first impression. And oftentimes, people think a handshake is a first impression, when in fact, when we show up, and Deb, you referenced a networking event, I think that's a beautiful example. For most of us in the business world, we're a little afraid about showing up at a networking event. When you think of speechless communication, how we show up and present ourselves the moment we walk in a room, we want to make sure that our posture, that our facial expression, and that our eye contact is aligned. You mentioned that before. What a great concept. The alignment of what we are hoping to project when we interface with other people. Want to make sure that, in fact, other people are perceiving us in that way that we hope to communicate to others. So in the classroom, we do spend a lot of time on facilitating different aspects and practicing. Because I love being part of this first inaugural broadcast. It seems like such a simple thought, facial expression. Because at Tero, we love to say, it's a two-word philosophy. We simply say, have one. and that seems so easy, but Ro, I think you referenced it in one of your research. When we find ourselves in those moments of networking, most people self-identify it's a very scary, it's a very stressful time, and the more muscle memory we can get around an invisible tool, such as facial expression, and we practice that in a safe area, we get eye contact, posture, and facial expression working with us, and we practice moving around, and we practice networking situations. You can get more muscle memory around it. People feel, as a result, more confident when they go into what is naturally perceived as stressful environments. Anytime they have to figure out, how do I get into a conversation? How do I make conversation? How do I get out of conversation? The getting out and the getting in of conversation begins with a great facial expression and eye contact. So we would say leverage that for great results.
It's so easy to go unconscious in those situations, and then we have no idea that our face is actually communicating for us, and you're saying we should plan for it.
Yes, as simple as that sounds, leading with that facial expression can communicate to others trust, approachability, confidence, warmth. Those are the factors we want in that first impression. We talked about, you referenced, both of you, right before I sat down, the value of that. We're moving toward a technological workplace multitask, and even when you think about people in the speechless conversation, the emoticons, there are 70 emoticons available to most people on a phone. 24 of them squarely have to do with
facial
a facial
expression.
expression.
We'll have to, in a future
Yes.
show, talk more specifically about
Yes.
emoticons, because that's something we struggle
And
with.
yes.
I'm noticing we're getting our 1-minute warning here.
Oh, thank
So-
you so much for sharing your comments.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you for joining us today. If you missed any portion of the show, or if you want to share it with others, you'll find the entire program uploaded to Tero's YouTube channel. Tune in next Monday at 9:03 a.m. Central Time, and we're going to look at some common misconceptions we have around vocal quality and communications.
And now it's your turn. We invite you to give us your questions, your feedback, your suggestions for future shows. You can email those to us at ideas@yourinvisiblettoolbox.com. And don't forget to check out those social media posts that we talked about and all the rest of them that are out there, as well as if you want to be alerted as to when the broadcast is going to happen. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel, then you will be alerted to when we are going to be on the air. And that's thanks to Kyle Plummer, who we want to thank right now. He's our invisible director and also cameraman today, so thank you, Kyle.
He's visible to us, but invisible to all of you. Thank you for joining us today. It's a wrap.